Okay, thank you, Mr. Jafri, for the introduction. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. I'm very excited to be delivering this webinar this evening, and I hope that you'll also find the insights that we share today equally exciting. The title of my webinar is How to Get the Maximum Out of Lessons Learned. All of us project management practitioners do spend enough time documenting the lessons. Some of us like doing this. Some of us may do it as an obligation, which is imposed by the PMO or the project management methodology. But today, I'll share with you some insights on how to spend this effort in the most productive way. So as part of this lesson, I'll try to explain to you the shortcomings of the traditional approaches that are used in capturing and transferring lessons. And I will share with you some fun-filled strategies which can ensure that we can objectively document the lessons, and we can also transfer the lessons to the next generation of project management practitioners, to people working on other projects, to other project management concerns within our organizations. So lessons are no good if they cannot get transferred to others. So I'll share with you fun-filled strategies to do that. And I will also share with you some of the techniques which can help you to recollect significant events that happen during the project so they can be properly documented. And based on those recollections, we can plan future projects more effectively. I will also share with you techniques that can help participants mend strained relationships between team members, and in case we have a difficulty in accepting challenges or admitting the challenges faced during projects. So I'll share with you what can we do to make people more receptive to the idea of using those challenges to learn from. So this is what we have set up for this webinar, and I will start with discussing with you the traditional approaches that are used. Now, all of us, we do document lessons, we do try to transfer lessons, and we use different tools, different techniques as we do that. So based on a survey done globally by PMI, project management practitioners rely on meetings, interviews, learning diaries, writing narratives, asking customers about their feedback. So these are the techniques that we use to capture the lessons which reflect important happenings in our projects. So we also have cases where organizations have started relying on external facilitators, so they want to have an unbiased moderator who could collect the lessons and have them documented the right way. So these are the commonly used techniques, and if we look at how frequently they're used, so meetings still happen to be the most popular and most widely used tool to capture lessons. They're followed by interviews where we meet a smaller group of people and we try to get their insights and document those. Project audits, learning diaries, narratives, so they all fall behind the meetings. So meetings continue to be the most popular medium. So what I'll do later today in this webinar is I'll share with you techniques or tools, set of activities that can make sure that when we do these meetings, we get the maximum benefit out of those. So capturing lessons alone is not enough. We also need to make sure that the lessons are transferred to other project management teams, other practitioners, other concerns in our organization which are working on projects. So for that, we rely on written documentation, we do presentations, we have organizations that move people between teams to make sure that learning on one project gets transferred to the other team working on a different project. Organizations also hold formal training programs to transfer the lessons. They may host IT-mediated knowledge bases which are made available to people in the organization to go through the captured lessons and make use of those. And we have cases where this is done on an ad hoc basis, so organizations, they do not have formal written procedures to ensure the transfer of lessons. So capturing the lessons is part of most project management methodologies, but what gets missed out is the need to transfer those lessons so they can be effective. So this slide gives you an indication of how frequently different tools are used, and this is again based on the global survey done by Dr. Terry. So documentation remains to be the most commonly used tool to transfer lessons, followed by moving people between different teams. We still have a lot of organizations that do it on an ad hoc basis. Presentations are common, IT-mediated knowledge bases, they're becoming more popular. And then we have other techniques like mentoring, training, COPs or communities of practice. Some organizations have started developing specific forums where these lessons are discussed and they get transferred to a wider audience. Resource centers where people can ask for guidance if they need to. So we have to ensure that lessons are not only captured, they also get transferred. So if we look at the tools that are used to capture the lessons and the tools that are used to transfer the lessons, relying on traditional meetings, traditional documentation, presentations does not really make it an exciting experience. So let me first discuss the frequency of how these lessons are captured and how often they get transferred, and then we'll see that what are the problems or the shortcomings in these techniques. So most organizations would at least capture the lessons at the end of the project, but more and more project management practitioners are trying to do this more often. So we have organizations that would repeat this exercise at every milestone, at every significant event during the project. If there is a risk that gets realized, then again they would go through this cycle of capturing lessons and trying to transfer them to project teams, so we can have adjustments made on the project plan, or we can use better and more efficient activities to complete the work that is required. So the frequency varies from organizations to organizations, but at the very minimum, organizations do it at least at the end of the project when they're closing the project. The content and format of documentation or the reports that get prepared during meetings is mostly text-based standard forms specified by the PMO or other project management frameworks that are used in the organization. We have an increasing use of knowledge bases, but still standard forms remain to be the most commonly used format. And a lot of organizations now, they do archive this data for reference purpose, but the main format in which it is stored is textual. So if we talk to project management practitioners and ask them about the feelings that they had when they were capturing the lessons, or when they were part of sessions where lessons were being transferred, whether it's during the project or after the project, so we have a mixed response. So people report that yes, a smaller group of people met, they performed the review, and when the reports were written, they proudly owned the achievements, they tried to disown the challenges. So when they read the documentation, it looks more like a celebration of success than any other aspect which could be useful to learn from the project itself. So this is one type of response that people have when they look at the documentations. Also, people attending the sessions where lessons are documented, they tend to take it, as something that is imposed on them. So they don't really enjoy being part of this. So the PMO requires the lessons to be documented, the methodology dictates so people are doing that. But it's not an activity which they really enjoy. So we have feelings like, when will this meeting end? We must get this done as soon as possible and move on to more exciting tasks. Also, some people feel that their opinions were not given enough consideration while lessons were being documented. So they believe that they worked in most of the activities, but they never got the chance to be heard. So they believe that their insights could have been properly considered and included in the documentation of lessons. Now, because a smaller group of people usually participates in this exercise, so other people who are left out, they feel that they did all the hard work, and other teams or other people on the project, they just had fun, but their effort, their contribution, their sacrifice has not been recognized. They believe that their activity load was highest and unfair, and it was too hectic an activity to do without due rewards compared to other people who simply relaxed and enjoyed during the project itself. So generally people feel that it's an activity which is boring. They would rather do something else. Some people also get bogged down due to details that need to be written, so they believe that it's too hectic, and they tend to think that who will read the lessons? I mean, people will learn by asking for help when they need that. So why should they put in this effort in ensuring that all details are captured? So we have these feelings when lessons are being documented. When organizations try to arrange presentations or sessions where the lessons get transferred, so again we have a different set of reflections. People do not necessarily enjoy this experience as well. So somebody who's looking for documentation to learn about an experience that happened in a previous project and something that could be useful in the current project, they often find themselves lost, asking where should they start, who should they ask for directions. They look at the documentation and it seems to be too exhaustive for them to be meaningful. When presentations are arranged, people feel that they're too long, and probably they don't need all these details at this stage when the session has been arranged. Or in some cases, they may also feel that the details being provided do not really help them. So if they had the chance to ask questions directly, they could have benefited more from this exercise. So a mix of feelings on finding the lessons too detailed or finding them not relevant, not being able to find the information which is needed. So this is also part of the reflections. And in some cases, people feel that when they were part of the capturing lessons exercise, they were part of the documentation, but the reports did not come out the way they had expected. So yes, they did provide information by filling out forms, by providing insights that they had, but it got reflected in a different manner. So they believe that they've been singled out for blame for something that went wrong in the project, and if they had not shared their insights, they could have probably mentioned differently. So, so this is also another concern, that once you look at the lessons that were documented while working on a different project, you may not find them very very friendly, or you may not find them very useful, or you may find yourself mentioned in a bad light, and you have no chance to correct your position. So generally, if we summarize the reflections when we use the common traditional ways of capturing and transferring lessons, so people are not really happy about it. Yes, some people may have enjoyed celebrating their achievement and reflecting it in the lessons, but other people neither like the manner in which the lessons were captured, nor the manner in which attempts are made to have them transferred. So these are some of the discouraging factors. People do not really have an incentive to be a part of this exercise. So they feel that they would rather do something more exciting on other projects than being held to document lessons on a previous project. We may also have shortage of resources that does not allow us to effectively capture all the lessons. A lot of organizations may not have clear guidelines on what to document and how to document and what to transfer and what's the best manner in which it should be done. Lack of support from others in the organization, mainly difficulty in getting the right lessons documented or getting the right insights from important stakeholders. Use of processes which are not fully able to capture lessons, and involvement of wrong people. So a lot of people feel that they were left out, and a smaller group completed this exercise, and the lessons could have been more effective if they had gotten the chance to be part of it. So let us look at the alternative approach. What can be done? How can we use some of the activities that can make our meetings more productive, which can make our presentations more useful, but we also have a greater level of engagement which can ensure participation and ensure that everybody gets the chance to contribute. So first, let us talk about why do we really need these lessons. So I want you to think along these lines. I mean, do we really need to document lessons because we want to do our project assignments the same way? So we want to repeat what we did? Or do we document lessons because we want to do our project assignments differently? So if we think about this, we will know that, okay, what is the main objective of having the lessons? So we really want to do things in a better way. If we have done something successfully, we don't mind repeating the same, but if we have room for improvement, we would like to know that what's the best way in which we can do our assignments in a more efficient and productive manner. We also need to make sure that when we document the lessons, we are able to ensure that the project's objectives are met, the benefits that were expected from the project are realized. So we need to ensure that what kept us from achieving those benefits, if they were not achieved optimally. And we also need to ensure that organizations are able to learn from any activity that they undertook, and they're able to evolve to improve the operational efficiency as well. So we really need to document lessons to make sure that we continue using techniques that work, and we develop better ways of doing work, and we improve on those techniques which were not, should be done. Who have questions, they get a chance to ask. People who need clarifications, since they're part of this activity, they will get to interact directly with project stakeholders, and they can get the guidelines that they need for their projects. Also, we need to ensure active participation of the entire team, or if we have large project teams, a representative sample of team members who work on our project. So we need to make sure that we have wider participation. We shouldn't be restricting the documentation of lessons to a smaller group of people whose biases and whose own personal preferences may creep into the lessons themselves, and other people have no chance of presenting or clarifying their point of view. Also, we should use tools and techniques which allow better assimilation of information. So meetings are good, but we need to see how to make the best use of the time during which people will meet. Presentations can be good as well, but how to make sure that information is transferred in a way that gets retained for a longer period of time. And while we do it, we need to ensure that this is a fun activity. So people are not doing it because they're forced to do it. People are not doing it because it's imposed by the methodology or the PMO. People should do it because they enjoy being part of this activity, and people get a chance to mend any strained relationships which were a result of stress caused by the project itself. So we want to be in these situations. So we want to have fun. We want to make sure that the lessons are documented and transferred effectively. We want to make sure that we have a better assimilation of information that is discussed. We want to make sure that we have wider participation, and it should really be an activity that everybody enjoys and has fun in the process. So let us look at some tools and techniques that can help us do this in a more effective manner. Now, because these activities are non-traditional, so we do need some supplies to to do these activities, but we don't need an extensive set of supplies. What we need is a hall or meeting room for a large group. So we want wider participation. We want the entire project team to participate in this activity. So we need a room that can be suitable where everybody can fit. So we need a larger room. And in case we have very large teams, we select a representative sample and we select a facility, a hall or meeting room where the entire group of participants can work together. We also need some meeting spaces for smaller groups. So some of the activities will be done and other activities will be done in smaller groups in isolated meeting spaces. We need a set of office supplies. We need large sheets of paper, sticky notes, different colors, painting tools, presentation equipment to again share the results. So we may need projectors and laptops to be able to make presentations, flip charts, and stuff like that. So we don't need an extensive set of supplies, but these are the minimum that we would need to do some of the activities that I'm about to suggest. So we start by setting the tone, and we ask people to define project success. So as a moderator or as a person who is leading these set of activities, we need to make sure that people know what they are expected to do, and people can understand the rationale behind having these activities. So we start by asking them to define project success. So different people give different definitions. Some people would say that project success means that we're able to complete the project on time, within budget, and we complete the scope and quality requirements. Other people will focus on benefits realization. But what we really want to bring home is the idea that this exercise is meant to explore venues which can be improved, to explore what aspects of project management can be done differently, what activities, what project assignments should be continued, and what can be changed and improved. So once you've heard the definitions from different individuals, you give them your definition, which is that a project is successful if it was done in such a perfect way that we would do the same exact steps, use the same exact techniques, and the same exact resources every time we do similar effort again. So what would you think if somebody gave you this definition? Now the general response is that people get to think that no, I mean we can improve. I mean we don't really have to use the same exact resources. Now we don't really have to do the same exact steps. We did, find ways that can help us do things better. So that's the main idea behind this particular effort of setting the tone, that we want people to be open to the idea of sharing their insights, of thinking out of the box and suggesting ways to improve the project. So we set the tone, but then like any group activity, we need to set some ground rules. So these are some suggested ground rules. We limit the amount of time a participant may speak in any single instance. So we do encourage everybody to speak, but one single participant shouldn't be speaking all the time. So we limit the time of participation in any single instance. We ask people to speak from their own perspective without making assumptions about anybody else's perspective. We would allow people to speak without interruptions so they feel welcome and comfortable. And we ensure that the main directive behind this exercise is to maximize learning, so we're not doing these activities to see who to blame or to find scapegoats. The effort is on maximizing learning. So we need to make sure that people understand this aspect pretty well before we start our activities. So now I'll talk to you about the activities themselves. So we have some activities that help people in recollecting what happened on the project itself. So I'll start with these activities one by one. So the first one is called Project Archaeology. So what do you understand from the term archaeology? Okay, now archaeology means to find artifacts, old, ancient artifacts. What we're doing right now, we're doing archaeology for our project that is being reviewed. So we ask participants to bring any project-related artifacts that they have in their offices. Now, this can even be done when the project has closed already. So people might have kept some project-related documents or project-related artifacts, deliverables in their office. So we ask all the participants to bring those artifacts and put them in the middle of the hall. So we want to see the collection of items that people have kept in their offices during the preceding period. So then the person who brings the artifact needs to describe its importance and describe the reason why this artifact was still kept in the office. So specifically on products that have closed. So since the product is closed, why did you keep, let's say, a copy of a certain report? Why did you keep this particular communication, let's say, item in your office? So the person who brings the artifact is supposed to describe the story behind the artifact itself. So once all the stories are shared, we announce rewards. So we ask people to vote for the best artifact, and the person who brought the best artifact can be given a certificate of recognition or a small prize. And we ask people to vote for the most unusual artifact, and this number of artifacts is also recognized. So this helps people in remembering the activities that took place during the project, the artifacts that were developed, different reports that they worked on, and we let people who kept those artifacts with them tell the story behind those artifacts. So somebody might have worked very hard on preparing that artifact, and that's the reason why the person decided to keep it as a souvenir. So we want those stories to come out and people to start thinking about what took place on the project itself. And again, because we're rewarding people, so we try to make it a bit more rewarding for the participants. So after we've done this, we do another exercise which is a bit more serious than this one, and it's called project timeline. So what we do in a project timeline, we paste large sheets of paper on the wall inside the hall. So these sheets could be kept for each term on the project. These could be linked to milestones in the project. So on the slides right now, I'm using the quarters during which the project was undergoing as periods to be shown on the timeline itself. So each sheet of paper represents one period in time. So let's say this is a project that we had done in 2013, and now we're doing the review to see that what kind of benefits were realized from the project. So we have these sheets on the wall, and then we ask each participant who had worked on this project to take sticky notes and write what they remember from each of these terms. So they could have worked on something, they can have that written on a sticky note and placed on the timeline. They could have made a presentation, they could have completed, let's say, a deliverable, they could have had a celebration. So all significant events that took place on the project, participants are supposed to have them written on sticky notes and then pasted on these sheets of paper in the correct project period. So we encourage people to do this individually and have their sticky notes pasted on the wall, and then the entire group is asked to walk along the timeline. So they start looking at the sticky notes from the first quarter in our example, and they're supposed to read each sticky note, and then they continue to walk to the second quarter and they reach each sticky note in that quarter, and they would complete their walk along the timeline. So what do you think this activity would achieve? So this is what we're doing. So let me remind you, what we do after we have those sticky notes is we ask all participants to walk along the timeline and read the sticky notes. So this helps people, first of all, in remembering what took place during each of those periods or terms, and also it helps people discover other people's perspectives. So you might have placed some sticky notes yourself, but you also look at sticky notes placed by other people, so you know what other people were doing or they were thinking during each period of the project which is being reviewed on the timeline. So this helps people understand not only their own contribution, but the contribution of others. So during the project, you might have felt that I'm the person who's doing all the hard work and everybody else is having fun. So now, once you walk along the timeline, you get to know what other people were really doing. So once people have walked along the timeline, the facilitator will use that timeline to initiate discussions, and people discuss challenges during each period that is on the timeline. People discuss why certain events happened in a certain way, why, let's say, people have different perspectives about what took place. So this particular timeline is used to guide the discussion, and then participants are asked to document their own findings individually. So at this stage, you may use standard forms that you traditionally use when you document lessons, but after people have gone through the timeline, you let them document their own set of lessons individually using any template that you want to use for this purpose. So once they document their own findings, we proceed to the next activity, which is emotional seismography. So what is seismography? Does this word ring a bell? Yes, it is something related to earthquakes, but what we do now is we use the same timeline, we draw a line in the middle, and the facilitator will move all the sticky notes on the line itself. So all the notes are placed in the middle of the timeline. And then people are asked to move their sticky notes above or below the timeline based on their emotions at that particular point. So yes, you worked on something in quarter one, so you go pick your sticky note and put it either above the line or below the line. So if a sticky note is placed above the line, it means that you were really happy and satisfied. And the distance from the line would indicate the extent of this happiness or emotion. If you were unhappy or you were stressed, you would place the sticky note below the line. And again, the distance from the line would indicate the intensity of the stress or intensity of the feeling. So we will let each person place their sticky notes above or below the line. If you have neutral feelings, you can place them on the line itself, and then you're supposed to draw a line connecting your own sticky notes. So this would give you an indication of how your emotions changed during different stages of the project. So each person will do that, and at the end we will have indicators. So we know that during the first quarter we had half of the team members happy, and we have approximately half the team members unhappy about how the project was proceeding. We again have some neutral feelings in quarter two, quarter three, fewer negative feelings, more happier, let's say, emotions are described. So we use this information to discuss that what caused the stress or unhappiness, and what were factors that led to happiness. So we want to find ways to decrease the stress in future projects, to increase happiness in future projects. So by looking at this information, again, we have a discussion on how to better manage projects in the future, so we can have more people above the line in the middle on the timeline, which is indicative of them being happy than being stressful. So once again, after you let people see how their emotions change over time and how other people's emotions change over time during the project, you let them document their own findings individually. So again, you can use any templates, or you can even have people document this without any structured standard form. So that's up to the facilitator to decide. Now we have some activities, and this one is really optional. If you have time during the review, you can do this. Again, this helps people think out of the box. This is called passive analogy. And what happens in this activity is that participants are shown a movie having a theme centered around project management, a theme centered around overcoming challenges. So movies are something that people really enjoy to watch. So they watch this movie, and after that, again, we discussed that how do different roles in the movie relate to projects being done in our organization, or how do they relate to a specific project being reviewed? How do the characters from the movie relate to challenges that were being faced on our projects? What approaches could have worked in the movie if different actors had behaved differently? So we used the movie to really relate to project management lessons. And these are some movies that are really relevant to the project management theme, and they can be effective. The first one is called Flight of the Phoenix. So it has a storyline which encourages a group of people who had very different backgrounds to work together to come out of a challenging situation. So this could be a good movie. Another movie which I found very effective in bringing home the importance of stakeholder engagement is Salmon Fishing in the Yemen. And a third movie, The Challenger Disaster, which encourages people to talk about things that went wrong and try to learn lessons and make sure that any mistakes are not repeated. So these are just three of the movies that can be used. We have plenty of other movies which have storylines centered around meeting challenges and doing projects effectively. So we can have any of those screened, and then people are encouraged to talk about the storyline as well as challenges that they face on their projects and how they can do them in different ways. So if you don't have sufficient time, you can probably skip the passive analogy activity, but another important activity which should be undertaken is healing the wounds. So this activity involves participants working in cross-affinity teams. So cross-affinity team means that the participants will be grouped in a way in which they do not normally interact with each other. So yes, you may have had different specialized teams in the project, so when you create cross-affinity teams, you disperse people from one specialized teams into different teams. So we encourage people to be with people that they normally do not hang out with. So participants first have a lunch together in this cross-affinity team, and then you make them play different team games. What I found very effective is letting them solve different crossword puzzles. The puzzles could have, again, terms related to project management, terms related to the organizational, let's say, environment and strategy itself. So it helps people discuss project management terms, to again have them used in a fun way to fill the crosswords, and they get a chance to work with each other and to discover more about people that they have never interacted with as frequently on the project. So again, after people have taken part in these activities, we encourage participants to appreciate any team member who they believe was overlooked early on during the project. So people have now seen the timeline, they've seen how people's emotions have changed, so they know much more about the project and people's role and people's feelings than they had known while working on the project itself. So if they believe that somebody who should have been appreciated more, this is their chance to do that. So this activity is mainly used to bring people to get to know each other better, specifically those individuals with whom they did not spend enough time earlier, and also to mend any hard feelings that they might have developed during the project itself. So after this is done, we start some serious work. So now we have some activities which involve capturing lessons. Again, during the discussions that have preceded these, people would have shared their insights. So I just want you to think about the fact that when we have a larger group of people sharing their experiences and sharing their perspectives, we also have transfer of lessons taking place seamlessly at the same time. So people are learning about what happened on the project, what are different people's opinions. So now they make use of what they have discovered, make use of what they have learned, and they start doing some serious work. So first we have the cross-affinity review. So the participants work in the same cross-affinity teams that they were in before, and they discuss their individual list of lessons within this group or team, and they're supposed to draft a consolidated list of lessons, and they propose recommendations. So each smaller team now meets in an isolated space where the lessons which were earlier documented individually get discussed within the teams, and you're not only discussing what happened in the project, you also come up with your own recommendations and you consolidate those. So each team then gives a presentation on their work once the larger group assembles. And after these presentations, we develop a common pool of lessons and recommendations. So yes, we do end up having lessons documented, but we've had wider participation. We've had the chances of looking at different perspectives. We've also had the chance of sharing insights, and as we documented the lessons and as these discussions took place, all the participants end up learning from each other's experience. So the lessons also get transferred. Now another activity which is very important and necessary at this stage is change the paper. So what we do, we ask participants after this common pool of lessons has been prepared to go back to their cross-affinity teams and specifically discuss the documents used during the project, different forms or templates. And they should focus on what information was essential on a certain template or form, what information was missing, what information was not required. So how can they modify the project management documents, the templates, the standard forms to be more effective and efficient. So again, they will come up with their recommendations on how to improve the documentation for future projects. Now, after these activities, I want to also share with you some insights about handling special situations. So in some organizations which undertake projects that have a challenged, let's say, outcome, I don't want to say that the project failed, because failure is really a hard word for people to accept, but let's say that the project was challenged. So we have a technique called celebrity interview, and this technique is aimed at encouraging people to be able to share their insights and to be able to discuss the mistakes that took place in a more comfortable environment. So what we do in this organization, some participants. Now the interview is not necessarily related to the project being reviewed, but what we want to bring home to the audience is that how did this person face challenges through his or her professional journey? How was this person able to cope with those challenges? What kind of responses did he employ to overcome those challenges? And today, if this person is a successful leader, so it means that challenges or mistakes, or even if we want to use the word failures, do not necessarily stop people from being successful in the future. So if this person can be in this leading position now, even after having faced numerous challenges. So we should also openly discuss the challenges, the failures, the mistakes, and try to learn from them so our future projects can be successful. So we handle situations where people are not really willing to speak up by using celebrity interviews. Another exercise where we want to understand the difference in perspectives. So different people who worked on the same project may have completely different perspectives. So we want to have a fun way of bringing out those perspectives and share it with the larger group. So this time we ask people to work in affinity groups. So they will create smaller teams or smaller groups, but this time they're not cross-affinity groups, these are affinity groups. So a group of people who like to hang out with each other, who may have similar views, they will be together in a group. So each group is asked to create a painting of their perception of the project. So if you feel that the project was successful, yes, create a painting to reflect your feelings. If you feel that the project was challenged, you again have a chance of reflecting that in a painting. So each group is asked to create a painting, and then those paintings are displayed on the wall, and then each group is asked to choose a representative and explain their perspective, explain their painting. So in this way, we can ensure that different perspectives are shared with the larger audience in a more comfortable and congenial atmosphere. So this activity is specifically meant to address cases where we want different perspectives to be shared with a larger audience. Now, another special situation, a lot of people may feel that they've worked on projects and they've given suggestions, but their suggestions were never accepted. They wrote recommendations, and their recommendations again did not make it into the final list of lessons that were documented for a project. So for such let's say situations, we have an activity that encourages people to continue to propose changes and to feel encouraged to give recommendations. We call this evangelize for a cause. So we divide people into, again, smaller groups, affinity groups, and we ask them to prepare communiques on what would they like to see improved on future projects or changed in the organization. So they can come up with newsletter articles, web banners, posters, mini posters that they can keep in their own offices, or they can probably have them placed on the notice board. So the main idea is to encourage them to continue sharing their ideas and to ensure that their ideas make it to a wider audience, and probably once they reach the stage where there is enough acceptance of the idea, it gets reflected in the processes that the organization tries to improve. So these were the activities. And as you might have noticed, these activities encourage wider participation, and these activities have a more fun element in them than traditional meetings or presentations. These activities depend a lot on discussing things in a congenial atmosphere, so you're more likely to retain information that you captured in a fun way, and you have the chance of even having lunch or meals together, so that's enjoyable. And again, if you want to include any other fun activity, because the entire group is there, probably after you complete these activities, you want to have, let's say, a joint dinner or celebration. So that can be arranged as well to make this, an activity which is memorable. So now I'll share with you very quickly some of the frequently asked questions. So when this is done, who conducts these activities? So the answer to that is that the activities should be conducted by someone who's neutral. So if you're reviewing a project, better have a facilitator from part of the organization that was not directly involved in the project, because we don't want any bias of the facilitator to get reflected in these activities. So ideally, it should be an independent facilitator. Independent means somebody who had not had a direct role in this project. How long do these activities take? It depends on the extent of the review. So if you do it at the end of the project, it might take longer. If you do it at every milestone, these activities could be shorter because the timeline would be shorter. The extent of discussions will be shorter. So the time really depends on the scope of the exercise itself. Are these only for co-located teams? Well, these activities, they work best with co-located teams because we need people to have this face-to-face interaction. We need them to have lunch together. We need them to play games together. We need them to watch the movie together, to walk along the timeline. But we can have some variations for virtual teams. So now we have a lot of tools that allow us to create timelines using information technology. So we can make use of those tools, but yes, the best results come out when we will use these activities with team members who are in one location. So I would conclude my presentation by emphasizing on the fact that we need to use activities, tools, and techniques which allow documentation and transfer of lessons at the same time, instead of relying only on those tools that that have asymmetric, let's say, transfer of knowledge. And they should be fun to encourage participation and to make sure that people really take it seriously and they don't take it as a burden. So with that, I conclude my presentation, and I leave the floor open for questions. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll be glad to answer those.
Well, thank you very much, Brother Ilyas. Folks, if you have any questions, you could either raise your hand. There's a hand icon available on your webinar console, so if you click on it, I shall give you an opportunity to speak to the speaker, or you could put or insert your questions in the question box. I'll be happy to read them over on your behalf. Let me go straight to the caller. We have brother who has raised his hand. We have Brother Muhammad Saif. Muhammad Saif, could you please introduce yourself and ask a question?
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can
hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, my questions. Okay, about all of these activities, should we conduct them all together in same session, or we can just apply it? Some of them can be applied at the beginning, some of them at the milestones, and some others at the end of the project.
Okay, you can improvise them. You can choose the set of activities that work best for you. So they don't have to be done all at the same time. And even when you do it at the end of the project, you don't have to do them all. So you can choose what works best for you. But again, keep in mind that we want greater participation, and we want them to be fun, so people can really, put in their best effort when they share the insights.
Okay, can you share with us a list of movies that you recommend to be utilized, to be watched?
Okay, I will do that. I will do that. I mean, I have 3 movies already given on the slides, and I will also share with you a more extensive list of movies. So I'll be glad to pass them on to the organizers, and I believe they will have it placed on the webinar page, so you can get access to it from there.
And all of those movies are short movies, or?
Some of them are short movies, some of them are full feature films. So again, you need to decide whether you want to show them, let's say, the complete movie. I also have some TV shows which are smaller in terms of, the screen time. So they're 20 minutes, 30 minutes. So you can pick and choose from them. So depending on the time available, you can choose what's the best way to use the passive analogy exercise. Also, if you feel that they may not be able to view the entire movie or show together, you can probably recommend that they watch a movie and they come back and then hold a discussion around that particular movie itself.
Okay,
So
my final questions, if you allow me, about those movies. Are they all serving the same purpose, or each one serve a certain or specific purpose that you need to address?
Okay. No, I mean the movies, they again, they're centered around project management, but they have a different theme. Like the Flight of the Phoenix movie addresses how to handle shortage of resources. The fishing salmon in the Yemen addresses how to ensure a stakeholder engagement and how to make sure that the stakeholders are on board. So every movie has a slightly different, focus. So the list that I will share with you will give you an indication of what's the main purpose of using this particular movie.
Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you very much, brother,
You're most welcome.
for the question. Let me move to another caller. In fact, the brother has asked to rather ask the question. But let me move to the question box. We have from Brother Ahmed Razika. The question is, Engage projects is similar to other previous projects in some ways. Enhancing existing lessons will stimulate team members to present something better.
Okay, now, yes, I mean, what you can do is we try to have all the team members participate in this exercise. but people working on similar projects in the organization can also attend as observers, and they may also contribute their insights, and they may also ask questions to know how did this particular team deal with a certain challenge, and they can probably make use of the insights from their existing project. So yes, if the time and space allows, you can have people from other teams attending as observers or even participating to share their insights and to learn from this exercise. So that is in fact encouraged, that we have observers, or we have participants from other projects as well.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another question from Brother Saad Al-Dusari. The question is, do you recommend the participation of contractors, vendors, etc. in these activities, or should they be kept in the project team of the organization?
Okay, now if the contractors had a significant role on this project, then yes, you want them to participate in these activities so you also learn from their perspective, and you probably, you may use the same contractor on a future project. So if they are aware of the challenges and if they're part of the discussions, then they also learn in the process, but you also get to know the perspective of the contractors. So a lot of issues which could have been sourced from the contractor side, this will give you a chance to understand their perspective better. So yes, if you have contractors on your project, you can even have them participate. You can have the representatives participate, if not the entire contractor team. So I would rather include them to know their point of view and for them to know our point of view, so we can have better experience working on future projects.
A short one from Brother Muhammad Eid. The question is, could you quickly explain the affinity once again?
Okay, now affinity means people who have similar roles, who are part of the same project team, specialized team, or people who even generally tend to hang out together. So that group of people is called an affinity group, because they have this affinity to be together, to work together, or to share insights together. Cross affinity means that people who normally do not hang out with each other, people who normally do not work on the same team, people who have different roles in the project. So when you combine them in a team, that becomes the cross affinity team. So affinity team is a team where people naturally get together to do something, either because of their working relationship, or either because of the project role, but they have generally work together on most of the projects. So that is affinity group. So when you divide them into different groups, that is cross affinity groups. So some activities we do them in cross affinity groups, so we make sure that different perspectives get shared. And in an affinity group, I mean, you mostly agree with each other. So if a person has an opinion, everybody tends to say yes, or tends to agree. So in cross affinity, we ensure that different perspectives get discussed in a group which normally did not have this opportunity to hold this discussion earlier.
Okay, thank you. We have one last question from James and Joseph Tanga. The question is, the emotional seismograph, is that a commonly used, and can one have more literature about it?
Okay, now seismograph is basically making the best use of the timeline. So you draw the timeline, and then you want to see that how did people's emotions change over time. So this is basically an additional piece of information that you get from creating the timeline itself. Now we do realize that two most important factors on projects are people and communication. So we want to make sure that we understand what made people comfortable and what put them under stress, so we can arrange future project activities in a better way. So yes, I mean, in this short amount of time, I was probably not able to share as many details as I would have liked. But what I would do is, again, I'll share the references with the organizers, and you'll be able to read more about it. And I use it a lot on projects that I review, and also a lot of people, they've used it after my recommendation, and they found it very useful. So yes, it's a technique that is growing popular because people also want to ensure the emotional well-being of project teams so that they can be most productive and they can be most comfortable when they do project assignments. And I'll be glad to share references with you.
Okay, we have one more question from Brother Ahmed Khalil. The question is, for a 1-year project, can we have a 1 day per month and 2 days per milestone and 3 days at the end of the project as a way to apply this technique?
Again, as I mentioned earlier, the exact amount of time that you will spend on these activities depends on how often you do them and what is the level of detail that you want your discussions to be held at. So again, there is no standard duration. There is no minimum or maximum, let's say, time frame to do these activities. And again, you don't have to do all activities every time. So you can choose something that you find effective. If you believe that the timeline is the most effective tool for, let's say, more frequent reviews, you can simply use the timeline, and you can probably supplement it with other activities when you do a larger review, let's say at the end of a milestone, or you do a larger review at the end of the project. So it really depends on the time that you have at your disposal and the level of detail that you want to be at.
Okay, we have one supplementary question, and we'll take it as last as we're really pressed on time. This is from Brother Muhammad Eid again. In developers' companies, people are working in different projects. Maximum of 3 will share the same project. How can I conduct these lessons learned with the team dealing with different projects?
Okay. Now, keep this in mind that we want to ensure maximization of learning. So if people are working on different projects and they have, I mean, at least some activities on the single project that is being reviewed. So you may have them, participate in this activity and share challenges even faced in other projects, and they get a chance to discuss them, in a team which has more, let's say, diverse membership than the team of their own project. So even in an IT company where different developers work on different projects, there is really no hindrance on having such activities. Again, you may not review one single project. You may have a set of projects reviewed at the same time. Projects, let's say, being undertaken by the team of developers at any given point. They may have common challenges. They may need common responses. So in this case, yes, these set of activities will not be focused on one individual project. They would be focused on the work being done. So you can still do them. You can choose which activities meet the objectives best. So you want, again, to have a chance to let people discuss, share ideas in an environment different than formal structured meetings where everything is based on the agenda and people get very little chance to be heard or to express themselves.
Brother Saif, who has raised Brother Muhammad Saif, you have raised your hand again. Sir, we are really pressed on time. I would appreciate if you could be brief in your question, and please go ahead.
Thanks very much. Just, okay, is there any publications, any resources we can refer to read more about this lessons list in general and for project management techniques in specific? And the other questions, these techniques that you just mentioned to collect and transfer, document and transfer, you need to do it in sequence, or we can apply some project management techniques like crashing or fast tracking to do things in parallel? Thanks.
Okay. See, there is no specific sequence, but generally we do recollection related techniques before we start doing the the cross-affinity group and the technique which focuses on changing the paper. So there is no specific sequence, but again, it is always better that you first let people recollect significant events and then you discuss what should be done for future projects. So again, you can decide the right sequence that works for you. You can pick the techniques that you feel meet the time restrictions for this review to be conducted. Now, I will be, as I mentioned earlier, I will be glad to share references with you. There is an excellent book that I can recommend that covers a lot of these techniques in more detail, and there are other resources also. So I will make them available to the organizers, and they will have it placed on the webinar page, so you'll have access to them. So I'll be doing that, yes.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. And folks, with apologies to Brother Ilyas, I've taken the liberty to share my screen just to demonstrate the MILE community. We have recently activated also a project management, a PMI group, which we call Community of Practice on the MILE community. So I highly recommend to please do register yourself for free and join this community, as we will try to bring more and more engagement and more experts like Brother Ilyas on it to also answer the questions which have not been answered so far. And we would like Brother Ilyas to also share all the reading material on this community so all of us can access it through this community post this webinar. So thank you very much, Brother Ilyas. This really brings us towards the end of the webinar. Any concluding remarks that you would like to give before we dismiss out?
Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share my insights today. And as I indicated, that I will be sharing some references that could be useful to the attendees. And in any case, I'll remain available to answer any questions that you didn't get a chance to ask today. So please feel free to use the community tools available to post your questions, and I'll gladly answer those. And I'm grateful to you for your interest and for your attention. And I'm also thankful to the presenters for giving us the opportunity to be together virtually at this point in time. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I really want to thank, especially on behalf of the Medina Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship, for giving a very intriguing presentation. And folks, all of you who have participated in this webinar, we really want to thank you, and for also making an interactive experience by sharing your questions and thoughts. As we had mentioned, you are entitled to claim 2 PDUs from PMI AGC. We will be sending you an email with complete instructions how to claim those PDUs within the next 24 hours. With that note, I would like to end the webinar. So you all have a good day, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're calling from. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.